Okay, hello everyone, Mr. Pratt here. So we are going to be looking at the 12 mark questions now. Hopefully you have gained a good understanding of the 4 marks and the 8 marks, and we're going to now look at the 12 marks as they are slightly different, but still keeping to the structure that now you have hopefully mastered. So there are normally 2 different ways you may be asked to write a 12 marker question. One way could be talking about how an actor can use the performance space, and another way could be how the actor can interact with another character or characters on stage. So before we start looking at some questions, what would be very beneficial for you is to write down different ways that an actor can use the performance space and how an actor can interact with other characters on stage. So for instance, an example of how an actor can use a performance space could be the character runs down stage left away from the other actor on stage. That could be one way of using the performance space. How an actor can interact with another character or characters on stage. The character puts his arm on the other actor's shoulder and looks at him in the eyes. That can be showing an interaction with the character. What I'd like you to do is spend some time on a piece of paper writing different examples of how an actor can use the performance space and different examples of how an actor can interact with other characters on stage. Make sure you're using key words. So for instance, I use downstage left. So that's a key terminology there. Okay, so our first learning objectives: to understand the different ways in which an actor can use the performance space and interact with each other. So your notes that you've just made will hopefully help you with this lesson and with the lessons moving forward. Our extra challenge: to think about the effect this use of space and interaction will have on the audience. That is really important because this will help you get the higher grades in your answers. And our literacy focus is to use key drama terminology. You should be doing this throughout. Throughout this scheme of work, we are going to be looking at a lot of example exam questions. The more we look at, the better your answers will be in the future. So our first exam question we're going to look at is this one. And obviously it's a 12 marker. There are some words in bold, so do not forget these words when you go to answer. It's very simple to do that. It's very simple to forget who you are focusing on and what you are focusing on. So keep checking back to the question. So, you are performing the role of Mrs. Lyons. Focus on the outline part of the extract. That's really important. We're going to go through some top tips in a minute for 12 markers, but that one is very important. Focus on the outline part of the extract, or the shaded part. Could be either shaded or outlined. Explain how you and the actors playing Mrs. Johnstone might use the performance space and interact with each other to show each other's desperation. So there's quite a lot of keywords there. So obviously I've bolded Mrs. Lyons and performance space, but also after that there is interaction and how they are showing each other's desperation. So you're linking your work and your writing to how they are showing their desperation. Okay, this is really important. 12 mark questions, top tips. Don't just look at this or listen to this once and think you've got it, because you won't. Keep going over these top tips because it's so easy to forget these. So we have created 5 top tips for the 12 mark questions. I'm just going to read them through to help you out and you can read along. So number 1, remember the 12 mark question focuses on the shaded part of the extract only. You do not need to talk about anything else. Don't waste your time talking about another part of the extract that is there. Just talk about the shaded or the outline part of the extract only. That's really important. Number 2, you must not only talk about your character, but also the other character in the shaded part of the extract. This is really important because the question will ask you to talk about the interaction. You cannot talk about interaction if you're not talking about the other actors on stage in that extract, in that shaded part of the extract. That's really important. Number 3, you need to include specific lines from the extract, but you do not have to write the whole line out. So for example, you could say on the line when Linda says, "You stay where you are," instead of writing out the whole line, which is, "You stay where you are, you've done nothing wrong." So you can just give a quick summary of what that line is. Number 4, this question will always be about performance space and interaction. A few keywords to use are eye contact, gesture, proxemics, voice, movement, stillness. There are so many keywords you can use. Please try and add to these. Hopefully you did do this with the notes that you made earlier. Number 5, the question will always ask you to create a certain effect. Make sure you use this word in your answer. For example, the question might be, explain how you and the actors playing Mickey and the teacher might use the performance space and interact with each other to create comedy for your audience. The key word here is comedy. You must use this in your answer. So for instance, the question that we're looking at now is desperation. That's the key word, is desperation. So this is a question I would like you to focus on, but before you even attempt to answer this question, I'd like you to have a look at slides 9 and 10. Okay, so I would like you to read through these 2 slides. Maybe read them out loud so you can try to understand where they've used keywords and how they've answered in the style of a 12-mark question. The slide 10 is an exemplar from the play The Crucible. So it might not have the same context as Blood Brothers, but the structure is perfect. And underneath this, the slides after that exemplar, there are some examiners' statements and some examiners' responses to this answer. I would like you to read through these slides, read through these answers, and to make notes on what is successful with these answers and why, and how they are using their keywords and how they are answering the question. So please read through what the examiner said about this top band example from The Crucible, and then for the next 3 slides there is the examiner's report on the 12-mark question. I'd like you to read through these and to make notes on what you think is important to remember from these reports, and to make notes and to write down and note down the keywords and the key themes that you are going to remember to include in your answers. So hopefully you have now made notes on the response and the report of the examiner. What I would like you to do is, with the question on slide 7, I would like you to start writing a few CIDDH paragraphs on this answer. You may not know how to structure a 12-marker yet. That's absolutely fine. What I'd like you to do is just write some separate CIDDH paragraphs responding to that question on slide 7.